Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is John Campea, and this is Open Mic. Now, what is Open Mic? Well, see, every day on the John Campea Show, Monday through Friday in the mornings, we save time to take live questions, but quite often, we don't have time to get all the live questions, but we love taking live questions. So here on the weekends, that's all we do is just live questions. And guys, a lot of us here are on Avengers Endgame hangovers. Most of you guys have seen it by now. Some of you have not. So remember, guys, a lot of people still haven't seen it. Don't put any spoilers in the chats, please. Please be considerate of your fellow film fans. Tomorrow at 12 noon is when we're doing our Avengers Endgame open spoiler discussion. Me and Robert Meyer Burnett. Anne might stick her nose in there a little bit too. We're looking forward to that, but save all your spoilers for tomorrow at 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. That's when we're doing our open spoiler discussion for Endgame, and that's going to be a lot of fun. All right. Guys, let's not waste any more time. Let's get right into it. You guys have been firing in some live questions, so let's get started right now. The first one comes to us from Dagoto1, who writes, "Holy shit, Endgame is now projected to open at 350 million and over $1 billion worldwide. We will never see something like this again." Yes, we will. I mean, look, it's even like I said when when Infinity War broke the record. And I said, well, no, we'll see this record broken again someday. And this will be broken again someday. And then whatever breaks this record will be broken itself. It will all happen. Within the next year? No. Within the next 2 years? No. Within the next 3 years? No. But it's going to happen. I mean, that's just the nature of it. Records get set, records get broken. Even at some point, Avatar, as the #1 worldwide box office film, that's going to get broken. I mean, look, Endgame has a chance at beating it. I still think it's unlikely, but it's got a legit chance. It could, and even if Endgame doesn't, some film will at some point. So yeah, it'll happen. But yeah, what we're seeing right now is just unbelievable. You know, Deadline put it correctly. They said the people at Disney and the entire industry is stunned, including me. Because, I said it would break the opening weekend box office record. I said, I guess it would get to $279 million. Well, it looks like I might have been off by like 20%. Because now they're saying anywhere between 315, 340, maybe 350. I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, I knew it would be huge. I knew it would be the new record setter. But even the people at Disney didn't think it would be this high. It is crazy what we're seeing. But make no mistake about it, Dagoto, it's a record that will be broken. It someday, not tomorrow, but it'll be broken at someday. And then whatever beats that will in and of itself get beat at some time too. All right, Ben Rayner writes, saw Endgame, I loved it. First world problems, but the recliner does not work. I had that happen to me a couple of weeks ago, Ben. I went to a theater specifically because they had the motorized recliners, and my recliner didn't work. And of course, it's first world problems. But yeah, that does kind of suck when you go there for that. Neil Before Zimmer writes, how about that Supernatural finale? 10 out of 10. I'll tell you what. I've never said this before in my life. I hated the finale. I hated the season finale of Supernatural. I really did. For a couple of reasons, and I've never said Supernatural has been one of my favorite shows forever, but I hated that finale. Main reason, they did a complete retcon on Chuck's character. Chuck's character has never been that big, massive dick. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, he's just some big, massive dick. And it's like, oh, I get it, because you're heading into the final season and you got to make Chuck the big bad. It's like, come on. That was a total retcon. It was totally inconsistent with everything they've ever done with the show. So it made me not like the show. But I mean, I still love the show, but it made me not like the episode myself. J Meister 25 writes, seeing Endgame again, I enjoyed every second of it. I didn't enjoy every second of it, but I certainly walked out very happy, as most of you did. I certainly walked out very, very happy. But yeah, to me, and we'll go into it more in the spoiler discussion tomorrow, there are still some things that are a bit problematic with the film. It is overall, out of the 22 films in the MCU, it is my 5th favorite MCU film out of the 22, which is great because like 15 of the 22 are great. And if it ranks as high as 5, that's pretty impressive. I didn't like every second of it, but I've seen it 3 times already, and I plan on at least seeing it a couple more times in theaters, J Meister. Have a good time when you go. All right, Willow Yang writes, here's some money for tea. You're going to need a lot of it for your Endgame spoiler chat and Battle of Winterfell tomorrow. Yeah, so tomorrow's going to be, it's going to be a battle of endurance tomorrow. Tomorrow, of course, we've got our Avengers Endgame spoiler discussion. That's going to go hours and hours and hours and hours. But then we're stopping to watch Game of Thrones Battle of Winterfell, and then immediately doing a post Game of Thrones video, open discussion. That's going to be me and Kaori, and I believe Robert's going to stick around and join us for that one as well. So it's going to be a lot of broadcasting tomorrow. I'm thinking I'm going to be talking for about 8 hours tomorrow straight. So with the break to watch Game of Thrones. But you're right, it is going to be a bit, and I'm going to be prepped. I'm going to have tea ready to go. I'm going to have somebody here at the house who's going to be making tea and getting drinks and bringing them up as we need them. So I'm going to try to be prepped. And the best part is I'm going to have Rob here with me. So it's not going to be like open mic where I'm talking straight nonstop. I'm going to have Rob here. So he's going to talk for a minute while I can stop, and then I'll talk for a minute. And so it should be good. But tomorrow's going to be a big day. Well, I'm very excited about it, but also a little bit nervous about it. All right. O+98 writes, isn't what DC is doing now similar to what Marvel did leading to the Avengers by making standalone movies? Maybe the tone of DC doesn't fit a cinematic universe. The Dark Knight, Reeves, Superman, proof of that? No, not at all. The problem with the DCEU was never the tone. It was never the tone. Because look, you look at something like Ant-Man is a very different tone from Infinity War, right? Ant-Man and Infinity War are very different tones, but that doesn't mean you couldn't put Ant-Man into Endgame. You can meld tones. You can. You can't meld ratings. Like you can't meld a G-rated material with R-rated material. That's different. But tones of movies, you can meld those. The problem with the DCU was never that, oh, they did Batman versus Superman. That wasn't the problem. The problem wasn't, oh, Batman versus Superman was a darker tone. That wasn't the problem. The problem is they didn't make a great movie. That's the problem. Now, some people think it's great, and that's fine. I like Batman versus Superman, and that's fine. But there were a lot of people who didn't. That was the problem. People keep looking for a formula reason why things didn't work. It wasn't formula. It was just that the film wasn't good enough to get enough people to like it. You know, The Dark Knight was an incredibly dark film. And people loved it, and it was a huge box office success and all that type of stuff. The thing was, it was a great movie. That's the thing. They were great movies. The DCU didn't make great movies. Nobody would be talking right now, honestly, about tones. None of that would even be a conversation right now if Batman versus Superman came out and knocked it out of the park so that the fans loved it, the audience loved it, it made $1 billion, all that. Then we wouldn't be talking about tone. Nobody would be discussing it. The problem wasn't the tone of the film. The problem was they didn't make the films good enough. That's the issue. So what's Warner Brothers doing now? They said, well, you know what? We did things one way. Let's do it a completely different way. And they're putting a higher focus. They're just making better movies. Aquaman was just a more well-received movie than a lot of the other DCU stuff. Shazam is a wonderful movie. Wonder Woman 84, since it's being directed by Patty Jenkins, I'm just going to assume that's going to be wonderful as well. That's really the bigger issue here. Dark Knight and Superman could have been in a shared cinematic universe because you can make tones meld. Ant-Man's a great example of that. But they're just doing things differently because they did it one way in a certain number of aspects. And in many ways, it did not get the results they wanted. So they're trying something totally different. Let's go standalone. Let's put a higher emphasis on the quality of the films. Let's go a little bit lighter. They're just doing things totally different than they did before. But to me, it is clearly not an issue of tone. It's clearly not an issue of whether they had a single superhero movie or whether they had 3 different heroes in it. Because look, Iron Man wasn't a standalone movie. Iron Man had War Machine, right? Iron Man 2 had Iron Man, War Machine, Black Widow. Right? So it wasn't a standalone movie, really. I mean, the title of it was Iron Man, so technically it's a standalone movie, but he had other multiple MCU characters in there. So yeah, that's just kind of the way I see it. That's always kind of been my point of view. Other people look at it differently. I get it, but that's kind of always the way I've seen it at any rate. O+. Thanks a lot for writing that in, man. Good observation. All right. Jay Bling writes, honest trailers. Remember when we said Infinity War was the most movie ever? Turns out we spoke way too soon. Also, A+ cinema score. Yeah, I didn't see the cinema score yet. I'm not surprised. Not surprised in the least about the cinema score at all. And, you know, somebody wrote that in the other day too, Jay Bling. They said, Avengers Endgame is the most movie ever. And it's like, that's a good way to put it. It is a most movie ever, at least for comic book movies. There's just so much in it. It's not the greatest movie ever, but it is the most movie ever. There's just so much in there to unpack, and it's like, they really accomplished something there. Dim-Sum05 writes, I thought I could casually purchase tickets to rewatch Endgame. What a fool. In these situations, piracy is very tempting, but I will not succumb. And by the way, Dim-Sum, I mean, if you want to watch it right away immediately, yeah, tough. Ann and I are going to go see it again tonight for our 4th screening. But believe me, you're not going to have a hard time watching this movie this week. You're going to have a very easy time getting tickets on Tuesday or Wednesday. You're going to have full theaters, but you're going to have no problem picking up tickets early. You're going to be fine for that. So don't you worry. You just got to hang in there for another day or two, and you should be okay, Dim Sum. All right. Pablo Diablo writes, saw Endgame in IMAX at 2:30 p.m., then again at 9:30 p.m. I had to ignore all bodily functions, hashtag whatever it takes. Think it's a good shot to take Titanic. Oh, Titanic. Oh, I've been saying for a while I think it's going to take Titanic. Yeah, I believe I've been saying for about 2 weeks now that I felt like it was going to pass Titanic. Now, Titanic is, of course, at like 2.1 billion. So you got, right now, your top 4 all-time films are Avengers Infinity War at 2.0 something million. Just ahead of it is Star Wars The Force Awakens at 2.0 something. Then ahead of that is Titanic at 2.1 something. And then way up there is Avatar at 2.7, almost 2.8. So, but I've been saying for a while, I believe it'll pass Titanic. I still think passing Avatar is a big question mark, but it's certainly possible. I mean, it's getting more and more possible by the day. But passing Titanic, yeah, I do think it will. I think it'll pass Titanic without too much trouble, actually. So we'll see how that actually all goes. Let's see. Tony Hurd writes, Endgame was a beautiful conclusion to the Infinity Saga. However, some jerk put onions in the vent of my theater that made everyone cry uncontrollably. It may not, I just go out on a limb here, Tony, and say it may not have been the onions. It may not have been the onions. That's fine. Some jerk put onions in the vent and made everyone in the theater cry uncontrollably. That's good. Cry time. I told you guys going into this movie, right? I said there's going to be cry time. There's going to be cry time in this movie. Sure enough, there was a lot of cry time. That's good, Tony. Thanks for sharing that. All right, Jay Bling writes, how long do you think it'll be before we get the next cinematic manifestation of Destiny, if not Star Wars Episode 9 for you? Oh, it's going to be a while. I don't think there's anything on the docket right now, including Star Wars Episode 9. And including Lion King, by the way. Remember, there was a time I said, look, I believe there's a chance. I always said this. I said, look, the odds are, the reality is, Avengers Endgame is going to be the biggest box office movie of the year. But I said, there's a chance. There's a chance that maybe Lion King does it. And maybe Lion King takes the number 1 spot. I said, no, in all likelihood, it's going to be Avengers Endgame. But I think there's a chance it could be Lion King. Forget that. That idea is completely out the window now. That idea is gone. There it goes, flying away. No, Lion King ain't gonna catch Endgame. No chance. I used to say there was a chance. No chance now. Absolutely no chance now. That's not gonna happen. But it's gonna be a while. It's gonna be a while. But it's gonna be something. Here's the funny thing. I believe the movie that'll come out next to beat and surpass Endgame as far as box office results go is going to be a film like Avatar, a film that just comes out of nowhere, a film that isn't part of a built-up franchise, a film that isn't part of a cinematic universe. It's going to be some film that, like Avatar did, just came out, captured the entire pop cultural imagination, and soars to incredible results. I think that might be the next movie to do it. So I don't see anything on the horizon, but it'll be something. I got a feeling it might be a non-franchise film that does it too, Jay Bling. I'm not sure, but I mean, it's just a guess. All right. Dimsum05 writes, I really want to support Feige and company, but the theater owners sure make it difficult. I guess I will have to wait till next weekend. Take my money. I mean, look, the theater owners aren't making it difficult. They're doing the best they can. Believe me, the theater owners want you there to watch the movie, but they only have so many seats. They only have so many seats and so many showtimes that they can fit in, specifically because it's a 3-hour movie. That even makes it more difficult. But believe me, Dim Sum, they want your money. They really do. Just Plain Steve writes, hey, John, love you and love your show. Thank you so much, Just Plain Steve. So $315 to $330 million opening weekend. How's everyone handling that superhero fatigue? I know, right? I've been saying for 10 years now, every year, Oh, superhero fatigue is sitting in. No one wants superhero movies every single freaking year. Every year. And I remember when Age of Ultron came out. Age of Ultron came out. And it made like 195 million opening weekend. One of the biggest opening weekends of all time. I believe at the time it was the second biggest opening weekend of all time. And sure enough, the Boo Birds came out. It's like, oh, it didn't make as much as the first Avengers did opening weekend. Comic book movie fatigue. It's like, guys, come on. Not everything's going to set the new record. Believe me, there's no comic book movie fatigue yet, but it's just over and over and over. And already Just Plain Steve. Already. I'm hearing people saying, well, now that Endgame's here, now comic book movie fatigue's going to set in. Now it's all downhill from here. I don't believe that. Now, look, I believe a day will come when some comic book movie fatigue will set in. I believe that day will come, but I don't believe it's here yet. I feel like Jaimon Hansu at the end of Gladiator. I will see you again, my friend, but not yet. And that's what I feel like. It's not yet. It's not yet. So we'll see how that all goes. All right, thanks for writing that in, Just Plain. All right, Dimsum05 writes, if no one is buying wheelchair seats, can I buy them and sit on the floor? Every Showtime I've looked at has plenty of those. I don't mind, please. Believe me, I thought about that. I was looking at, because now I had already seen Endgame twice before the movie opened. And my first screening on Thursday night, like with a regular audience, was 10 p.m. And so I went online just to see if I can find a couple of seats, maybe for a 6 p.m. The only thing that was available was, handicap seats. And I thought about pulling a Danny DeVito from Twins and going in and saying, and have them go, sir, these are for people with impairments. And I'm like, do I look normal to you? Pulling a Danny DeVito, but nope, didn't do that. I know, right? It's like, you know what they should have at movie theaters? They should have, how at airports, they have waiting list lines like, hey, I want to get the next flight to Dallas, but it's booked. So they'll put you on standby that, okay, if somebody doesn't show up, we'll sell you a seat. Right? They have standby at airport. They should do that at movie theaters for movies like Endgame, where it's like, okay, we have standby seats. So number one, if the showtime starts, 7 p.m. hits, and we still have wheelchair accessible seats available and nobody bought them, we'll sell them to you. If showtime hits and nobody's bought those seats yet, they should have a standby line for something like that. Maybe that's something they could have done. All right. Pool of Dead writes, box office subreddit 2 days ago, 300 million may not be possible. Today, 400 million opening weekend might be possible. Endgame is insane. 157 million in one day. Yeah, the previous record for the opening Friday was Star Wars The Force Awakens at about 120 million bucks. Endgame just destroyed that record. Destroyed it. Passed it by $38 million. That's insane. So yeah, you're looking, so previous record about 120, now 157. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. So let's see how this all kind of shakes out. We'll find out tomorrow morning when the final box office numbers come in. All right. Jamie Lee 10 writes, Ant-Man and the Wasp, and 50-Year-Old Virgin trilogy. There you go. I love it. Sign me up, Jamie. Sign me up. All right. Steven Z writes, hey, John, saw Endgame last night and it was fantastic. Can't wait for spoiler talk as I have so much to talk about. And that last hour was just orgasmic. I'm telling you what, it is. I have said it before. I will say it again. I will continue to say it. It is the single best entire hour. Now, I don't believe that Endgame is the greatest comic book movie of all time, but that last hour is the greatest hour in the history of the genre. There's never been an hour in a comic book movie that can match and equal the final hour of Avengers Endgame, in my opinion, at any rate. There are some contenders, but in my opinion, that final hour is the greatest we've ever seen. And it's going to be tough to ever top. But yeah, it was orgasmic, and I'm looking forward to that spoiler discussion tomorrow. By the way, I've got issues with Endgame. I do. I've got some problems with Endgame. Some of the problems I don't really care about. One or two bug me a little bit. But I am dying to talk about some of these problems that I have with it because they are just problems. And I'm seeing some spoiler discussions online where people saying, oh, this wasn't really a problem. I'm like, no. Yes, that was a problem. Yes, that was a plot hole. Anyway, there are some of those, and I just have so much fun with this movie. I'm even looking forward to talking about the problems with the movie. Like, that's how much fun this movie is. I'm even excited about talking about the problems I have with the movie. You don't often have them. Sometimes you feel like, oh, there's some movies like, okay, look, we got to talk about the problems, you know? This is, I'm kind of giddy about talking about the problems, you know? I don't know. It's kind of weird. I'm looking forward to this talk tomorrow, too. Okay. Emmanuel Ericart writes, excited for tomorrow. Also, have you seen Hunt for the Wilder People? I have. Not as funny as the other Waititi movies, but it's a beautiful film. I recommend it. It's probably, look, I'll say this. Taika Waititi's, I think his best movie is actually Thor Ragnarok, but very, very close behind that is What We Do in the Shadows. Hunt for the Wilder People might be his most complete movie, though. Like, there are elements in that movie that we haven't seen in other Taika Waititi movies. It's a better, well-rounded film, you know what I mean? Like I said, I still prefer Ragnarok. I still prefer What We Do in the Shadows, but it's a more fleshed out kind of movie. It's a more complete movie. And you're right, it's beautiful, it's wonderful, and the kid in it's great too. Steve, Ben, Obi-Wan, Larry Kenobi writes, John, it feels like witnessing cinematic history. We are absolutely witnessing cinematic history. Will they dedicate a wing of the Smithsonian to Kevin Feige and his team 50 years from now? Maybe. It is, look, when you really sit down and think about what DeBonaventura, Kevin Feige, what these guys have pulled off under the leadership of Alan Horn and Bob Iger, it's nuts. It's absolutely nuts. In the words of Vincini, it's inconceivable. It's just crazy what they've done. And it's almost to the point that it's getting boring. Oh ho hum. Another MCU film makes over $700 million. Oh ho hum. Another opening weekend record broken. Oh ho hum. 22 films in, and they're all great. Well, they're not all great, but the vast majority of them are great. It's just crazy what they've been able to pull off. It's really impressive. Spencer Smothers writes, does the Friday box office include Thursday preview box office? I believe it does. I could be wrong about that, but that's always been my assumption. I've never been corrected on that, so I believe it does. But I don't take that to the bank, though. I'm not 100% sure about that. Adam Martinez writes, 350 million opening weekend. Are you kidding? Well, remember, we don't have keep this in mind, guys. No matter what you're reading anywhere, we do not have the official number yet. We're not going to get that number until tomorrow. So keep that in mind. Like, as people throwing around 400 million, 330 million, whatever. Remember, none of it is real. These are all projections that give or take. They're on, they're off a little bit. Remember, we don't know what the opening is until tomorrow. That's when we'll find out for sure. Roy L. writes, 4 p.m. today of Endgame, 4 times for me. First for my wife, #cry. Yeah, it's going to be cry time, especially if your wife is into the MCU movies, and she's going to have a really good time. Tonight will be my 4th time, all with my wife, so I'm pretty excited about that. Oh no, it'll be my 3rd with my wife, because my wife went to a special Hasbro screening without me, and I went to a press screening with Rob without her. So we've both seen it 3 times. Tonight will be our 4th, our 3rd time seeing it together. All right. Rufino Salazar Jr. writes, avoiding Endgame spoilers by avoiding the movie. It's going great so far, LOL. Just kidding, seen it twice. Yeah, best way to avoid... The worst way to spoil Endgame is by going to see Endgame. It's like, damn, now I know everything that happens. Very funny, Rufino. Very funny. And I'm glad you've seen it twice. I'm glad you're enjoying it. All right. AFC writes, spent years getting my girlfriend into the MCU, only for her hashtag or quote unquote friend to tag her in a major spoiler just before we saw Endgame. Luckily, this film has lots of surprises. See, that's the thing that I've been telling a lot of people since I've seen the movie is, look, even if you've come across a couple of spoilers, that sucks, but take heart in knowing this. There's a lot of surprises in this movie. And even if you've had a couple of even big ones spoiled for you, there are still lots of surprises to be had by Endgame, so hang in there. Good point, AFC. Thanks for bringing that up. All right. Maya Demi writes, so 2 Marvel movies in the top 3. 2. Endgame, 156 million. Infinity War, 106 on Friday. So I assume it made those missing 50 million in 1.5 days on Monday. IMAX 3D on IMAX. Yeah. So here's the interesting thing. There was the math. Variety put out this great article on just basically the math going into Endgame. And it was, look, it's going to be missing out on about $50 million worth of tickets because of one less screening, because of the length of the film, one less screening per theater. What has happened, though, is an overwhelmingly big rush number of additional screenings added. They've just added so many additional screenings that it is obviously well more than made up for it. Now, I saw some people today saying this. I saw some people this morning on a thread saying, you know, any record that Endgame sets shouldn't be considered a real record. It should have an asterisk beside it because it played in more theaters than any other movie in history. Therefore, it's not really a record. You know, they should put a per screening average, not counting if it had more theaters than everybody else, blah, blah, blah. But my counter to that is this. You only get all those extra screenings if there's customer demand for it. It's like people say, John, Avatar shouldn't count because it played so long in theaters and other movies don't get to play that long in theaters. But it played that long in theaters because people kept buying tickets. So yeah, it counts. And if you want to say to me, well, John, you should put an asterisk beside the new Endgame record. The Endgame record shouldn't count because it had all these additional screenings. My counter is, there's all these additional screenings because there was demand for all those additional screenings. So yeah, you're damn right, it counts. It counts. I didn't think it would do it. Nobody thought it would do it. Disney didn't think it would do it, but it did it, and it counts, damn it. It counts. Yeah, a lot of extra screenings, but the extra screenings are because people demanded it. So there's no way around that. You can't excuse your way out of that. It just is what it is. All right. Damian Davies writes, Michelle Pfeiffer, red dress, a piano, and the Bridge brothers, Bo and Jeff, making Whoopi, iconic movie and an iconic scene. Your thoughts? Is that the Fabulous Baker Boys? I think that's the Fabulous Baker Boys. Let me just double check that. Baker. Yes, love Fabulous Baker Boys. I love that movie. I might be wrong about that. Was that the only movie that Bo and Jeff Bridges were in together? It might have been the only movie they were in together. Michelle Pfeiffer is a goddess of Hollywood, man. Michelle Pfeiffer is an absolute goddess of Hollywood. AFC writes, she didn't tell me, so I wasn't spoiled, but I was mad. Oh, you're talking about the girlfriend got spoiled? Well, that's actually really good on your girlfriend to know well enough not to, you know what I found out today? Blah. And she could have ruined it for you. That's a good girlfriend, right? That's a good friend, period, right there. You got yourself a good one, AFC. All right, Damian Davies writes, I love Helen Salter's turn as the iconic Supergirl in the 1980s movie. Her performance in that movie is wonderful. Too bad the movie never followed suit. It's hard. Look, it's been a while since I've seen Supergirl. I don't remember her portrayal as Supergirl all that great. I don't remember it being all that great, to be honest with you. But like I said, it's been a long time since I've seen it, and maybe I'm just letting my attitude towards the movie itself color the way I saw her performance. But maybe if I saw it again, I might think a little bit differently. But yeah, that's an easily forgettable movie, Davey. I think we're in agreement on that. That one was an easily forgettable movie. Jaron Morris writes, praise the Lords above. The actor who played Death just been confirmed for the final season for Supernatural. Also that Supernatural season finale, though this is the Endgame. Again, I'm not happy with the season finale last night. I was not happy with it. They did some pretty cool things, but again, the way the sudden retcon of everything that the Chuck character has been up until now. For those of you who don't know, Chuck is God in Supernatural, but he goes by Chuck. Anyway, Chuck, they all of a sudden out of nowhere, Chuck is a giant dick. And that's not the way they've portrayed him all throughout this series. But, it's the final season. We got to have the biggest opponent ever. God himself is our opponent now. It's like, really? You contradict everything you've done about this character for all these years of Supernatural, and now all of a sudden, just like that, in one episode, he's the next antagonist? I didn't like it. Didn't like it. Wish I did, though. Wish I did. Oh, well. Colby Harris writes, I'm fixing to pre-order my first hot toy. I'm getting the Captain America Endgame figure, and then I'm probably Far From Home Spider-Man when it's available. Nice. That's a good one to get, my friend. There are two I'm really considering, because I haven't bought a new hot toy in a couple of years. I've got 4 hot toys. They're up there. You can't see them. I got my Boba Fett. I got my Alien Queen, or not Alien Queen, just an Alien. I've got Jor-El. And where the hell? Oh, I know where he is. Okay. And the All-Father Odin. Those are the four that I have. The two I'm really tempted to get are obviously Thanos. I've been thinking about getting the Thanos one forever, so I might bite the bullet and get the Thanos one. The second one is Captain America, either from Infinity War or from Endgame. Those are the ones I'm thinking about getting. You just gotta be careful because they're so cool that you can get, because I bought one and then all of a sudden I had four. You know what I mean? And I'm just so scared about buying one and then, oh my God, now I got to buy 5 more. And they're so expensive. So expensive. Anyway, just got to be careful about that a little bit. All right, Stella McShave writes, the Chattering Order promo for Good Omens is great. I'm not familiar with it myself, Stubble, but I'm sure a lot of people watching this right now know what it is you're talking about. Steve James writes, do you think Endgame could be the first movie to reach 1 billion domestic total? Possible. I thought very unlikely. Because look, when you look at the totals right now, okay, let's look at the all-time domestic box office, right? The top 3 are number 3, Black Panther at 700 million. Number 2, Avatar at 760 million. And then this huge jump up to Star Wars The Force Awakens at $936 million. Here's the trick. We've talked about this all the time. The growing trend in movie going over the past year or two, particularly the last 2 years or so, is an increased growth in people going to see a movie they're interested in on its opening weekend. We have been seeing that trend grow more and more and more. As each year passes, a larger percentage of a movie's money is made in its opening weekend. And its long-term stuff usually has a faster drop-off now than ever before in history. What I'll say is this. Could it beat the $1 billion mark domestically? Yes, it can. But keep in mind that it's not the same pace as all the other movies we've ever had. There is a growing more and more trend towards seeing movies on their opening weekend. That's the trend. And because that's the trend, that means, number one, we're seeing these opening weekends grow more and more, right? We're seeing these opening weekends grow more and more. And that being the case, that these opening weekends are growing more and more, you're seeing these record numbers set more and more because more and more people go opening weekend. So if Endgame made, say, $330 million on its opening weekend 3 years ago, I would say it is very easily going to trend to $1 billion overall domestically. However, today that's not the way the trending works. The trending has changed a lot mathematically. So does that mean it can? Yep. It means it can, but don't think that it making 340 million opening weekend automatically means it's going to get to that $1 billion mark. It doesn't. It can. It can. It's just not an automatic. It is definitely not an automatic. So this is going to be the first time in a long time, though, that I think any film really has a potential threat to it, and we'll find out. We'll find out over the coming weeks whether it's going to do it or not. John DeBenedict writes, where I live, it's 1:17 p.m., and in 2 hours, I'll finally be seeing Endgame. Does listening to other opinions done listening to others' opinions, ready to form my own, can't wait. Good on you, man. And yeah, it's always good to hear what other people think about something, but then you take that not to form your own opinion, you take that to lay some basis, and now you go in and let your own opinion be formed. And that's what it's all about, and I'm glad you're going to have a chance to go see it, man. Enjoy yourself, John. All right. Chris Warden writes, with Endgame just destroying the box office in 2 days, I'm starting to think a $400 million opening weekend domestic is possible. That's beyond insane. I mean, look, at this point, anything's possible, right? And it is beyond insane. Like the Deadline article is even saying, like the Disney executives, they just were not prepared for this. They thought huge, they thought record-breaking, but even they didn't think this. And again, let's be cautious about throwing around numbers like 350 or 400. Let's just wait till tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll get our number, and maybe it'll be those numbers. Maybe it'll be higher. Maybe it'll be lower, whatever. But we'll find out tomorrow. We'll find out tomorrow what this final history-making final number is going to be. All right, John DeBenedict writes, and in time for you and Rob's spoiler chat tomorrow. Oh, yeah, you're going to go see it now? You'll be in time for the spoiler chat tomorrow? I cannot wait. I cannot wait for the spoiler chat tomorrow. ZMG Ruler writes, WB play cards right. Justice League equals Avengers film level success. Well, no, look, here's the thing, ZMG Ruler. Anybody plays their cards right. Anybody. James Bond, Mission Impossible, standalone original movies, Toy Story. Any movie plays their cards right, they could have that level of success. Warner Brothers and the DC films still have a lot of ground to make up. They still have a lot of ground to make up. And they got to win back a lot of the audience's goodwill. They still got a lot of work to do, but they're heading in the right direction under Walter Hamada. Walter Hamada's got them going in a really good direction right now. The rehabilitation of their image is going really well. But anybody plays their cards right. Like I said, I think the next film to really come out and surprise everybody and crush the all-time box office record is going to be a film that comes out of nowhere. It's not going to be a DC film. It's not going to be a Marvel film. It's not going to be a Star Wars film. It's probably going to be something like Avatar that just comes out of nowhere and totally captures the imagination of the pop culture. Joe Clem15 writes, Olive Garden sucks now. I live in LA, John. What Italian restaurants do you recommend, or other types of restaurants? Drink tea with lemon and honey tomorrow. Oh, I'm planning on Joe Clem. As an Italian, and a lot of people don't realize I am Italian, but my real name is Giovanni. Anyway, my favorite Italian place in LA is, oddly, and I've been to a lot, and there's a lot of good ones, but like nothing like my nonna makes, right? Like my nonna makes the best Italian food in the world. But I found one place that reminds me of my nonna's food. And that is a little place, ironically enough, in Burbank. So I was really lucky to find it. It's called Market City Cafe in Burbank. Market City Cafe. And quite frankly, I find particularly their pasta, is some of the most authentic tasting stuff I've ever had. Outside of, my hometown of Hamilton, which is like 20% Italian population in Hamilton. But, yeah, it's a little place if you live in LA, I recommend a place in Burbank called Market City Cafe. It's, I love the place. Absolutely love the place. When I feel like Italian food and I don't feel like eating in or making food at home, I go to Market City Cafe. That's where I go. At any rate, let's see. Steve Ben Obi-Wan Larry Kenobi writes, thinking about Endgame versus Avatar, do you remember why Avatar was such a box office success? The visuals, the name Cameron. No, it's not the name. Lack of sci-fi, fantasy movies. No, it was a perfect storm of things. It was unlike anything anybody had ever seen before. And it was a very immersive movie. Like, I don't think it was the best movie of the year that year, but it was a very immersive movie. And it was a movie that captured the imagination. It just captured the pop cultural consciousness, and you can't put a formula to it. Was it this, or this? There's no formula you can put to it. There was just an intangibleness about Avatar that just captured the pop cultural influence and imagination that made everybody go. I mean, it's not like even Endgame is going to suffer some walls because not everybody's into comic book movies, but Avatar had no such baggage, right? So everybody went to go see it. And even if it was 3 months later, because it was still playing in theaters, because people were still going, then finally some people would go, okay, fine, let's go see it. And then they go see it, and people went to see it. It was this crazy perfect storm of a bunch of intangibles that put it together. And there's no formula about it, because if there was, then every studio would have repeated the formula by now. But it was just a bunch of intangibles that really made it kind of the box office all-time #1 film ever. Cobe Porter writes, why don't Disney just buy full rights to Spider-Man? Because they're not for sale. Sony's not willing to sell them. And and Sony would set a price on them that makes it more expensive than what it's worth to Disney. And by the way, don't forget, Disney is not a buyer right now. Disney just spent over half of their market value. Disney just dropped $71 billion buying Fox. They're not a buyer right now. They're now in money-making mode. They're in money conservation mode. They're not in spending mode right now. But the bottom line to it, why doesn't Disney just buy the full rights to Spider-Man? Because they're not for sale. And if Sony was to put them up for sale, they would make it more expensive than what it's worth. Like, let's say Sony says, okay, Disney, you can have Spider-Man, the full Spider-Man rights back for $4 billion. Not worth it. Not worth it. $4 billion for, are you going to make $4 billion? No, not on Spider-Man's back. So, no. Now, if Sony maybe said, okay, Disney, we'll sell you back Spider-Man for $1 billion. Then Disney, okay, yeah, maybe that we can do. Because, yeah, that's good for us. We can make money on that deal, blah, blah, blah. But Sony's, the Spider-Man rights just aren't for sale. They're very happy with them, and they're going to keep them. Unless someday they decide they don't want them. But as of right now, it's not for sale. Ryan Lohner writes, from yesterday, you stay, I go, no following is from Iron Giant. You had a few people write that to me and say, you know what, even after somebody told me it was from the Iron Giant, I still don't remember the line. It's weird. I still don't, and I love the Iron Giant. I still don't remember the line. Ryan writes, at the moment you're reading this, I'm watching Endgame completely unspoiled. What's up, Danger? That's great. I'm glad you're able to go in completely unspoiled. Even if you do have a couple of spoilers, I still think you're good, but it's awesome that you're able to get in there spoiler-free, Ryan. All right. Donaldo Martinez writes, do you think studios should not announce movies unless they have an official release date? I feel we often get disappointed when they say some movies are in development, but they never get made. Who cares though? Is that really a big deal? Disappointment. Is that really a big deal? Besides that, most of the time that we find out, Donaldo, here's the thing. Most of the time that we find out about a movie that's in development, it's not the studio announcing it. It's one of the major trades finding out about it and reporting it. Right? Most of the times we hear about these movies being in development, most of the time it's not an official, sometimes it's an official announcement coming out from the studios, but a lot of times it's not. A lot of times it's the Hollywood Reporter or Variety or Deadline finding out that such and such a movie with so-and-so being attached to it is in development, and they report it because that's their jobs, that's their entertainment reporting. They report it. Now, sometimes if it's a big project, a studio just knows, well, we either announce this or they're going to find out about it. So let's take control of the narrative and let's get ahead of it ourselves and just announce it. That happens sometimes, but look, no, what it is, Donaldo, is that we as an audience need to mature and understand that, okay, something's in development. That doesn't automatically mean it's going to happen. But, okay, interesting. There's a studio that is underway trying to put this movie together. That's great. Maybe that means it's actually going to happen. But we as an audience need to understand that when Warner Brothers releases the movie, Scratching My Balls, the movie, we just need to understand that's not a 100% lock guarantee. It just means they're working on it. They're going to try to bring this movie to the screen. Great. And then if it doesn't happen, okay, oh well, big deal. It's not the end of the world. It's not the end of the world. So, just keep in mind, Donaldo, when you hear that, take a look at where it's coming from. It's often not the studio officially announcing. It's often just a trade discovering it and reporting it. Vince Carter of Mars writes, nobody makes me bleed my own blood. Nobody makes me bleed my own blood. It's Ben Stiller from Dodgeball. I love Dodgeball. I actually, you know what? It's been too long since I've watched Dodgeball. If you can dodge traffic, you can dodge a ball. I love that movie. That movie is hilarious to me. I love it. It's been too long. Thank you for reminding me of it. I got to go back and watch it again. Cobe Porter writes, what movie do you think has the best chance of overtaking Avatar in the next 3 years? I think Endgame has the best chance of any. PS, love the show. Well, obviously, Kobe, yeah. Endgame has the best shot. Endgame has the best shot. Like, even when I didn't think it would hit 300 million opening weekend, I still would have told you the movie with the best shot is Endgame. I mean, that's clear. I don't see anything on the horizon right now. I mean, what'll probably happen is that some movie will come up and surprise us. That seems to be the way of things. But right now, I honestly don't see a lot of stuff on the horizon. that can potentially threaten that Avatar spot, like Endgame can potentially threaten the Avatar spot. I think it's going to be a few years. And again, like I said a little bit earlier, Cobe, I think when one does come along, it's going to be one that surprises us. It's going to be like Avatar, that comes out of nowhere. It's a perfect storm and just captures the pop cultural consciousness like nothing else we've ever seen before. And it'll just, all of a sudden, boom, there it'll be. I don't think it's going to be Avatar 2. I don't think it's going to be Lion King. I don't think it's going to be Spider-Man Far From Home. It's not going to be Wonder Woman. So it's going to be something that surprises us, I think. So, but it might just very well be Endgame. Jay Bling writes, I found a new source of nightmares for you, John, a Netflix series starring Renee Zellweger called What If? Yeah, I've heard about something like that. There you go. Dun, dun, dun. The Chum Bucket writes, nuts to think Endgame made 200 plus million in 1.5 days. Yeah, it is. It's a little bit insane. It's a little bit insane. Where this is at. You know, somebody mentioned it a little bit earlier in the show, but they said it feels like we're watching cinematic history. It's not like we're watching cinematic history. We are seeing cinematic history unfold in front of us here. And keep this in mind. While another movie will come along and break whatever record Endgame sets, what I don't know that we're ever going to see again is a movie so decimate an existing record. Like if this thing, let's for argument's sake, we'll find out the real number tomorrow. Let's for argument's sake say that Endgame comes in at $340 million. Who knows if that's the number or not? I'm just saying, just for argument's sake right now, just for the sake of discussion. You're talking about breaking the opening weekend box office record by $80 million. You're talking about beating the existing record by 80 million. You're never going to see anything like that again. We'll see whatever record Endgame sets now for opening weekend, it will get beat eventually. But what I don't think will ever happen is you're never going to see again an opening weekend box office get destroyed the way Endgame is destroying the current box office record. This is something we're never going to see again. Eventually something will come out. If Endgame makes 360 million opening weekend, someday something's going to come out and make 364 million or 370 million. And then something else will come out that'll make 380 million or whatever. But you're never again going to see an opening weekend box office record get decimated the way that Endgame is decimating the current record. That's never going to happen again. The record will be broken, but not like this. Not like this. This is cinematic history we're seeing. All right. Ant Banks 1984 writes, I know Marvel is having a field day trying to take all the Endgame videos off YouTube shot in theaters. Can Marvel sue them for posting them? They should be. Well, here's the problem. They don't know. I mean, theoretically, you could, but then you have to find out who did it, and that's a lot of legal red tape, getting the actual personal information of people who posted them, and that's a tough thing. But they should be able to. They should be able to. They should go to jail. I mean, people who film copywritten material and put it online should go to jail. Not for 20 years, but they should go to jail. I mean, that's, you steal something that doesn't belong to you and you put it out available for everybody to see, you should go to jail. So anyway, that's just my thought on that. Anyway, let's see. Brent Pham writes, and that's a really generous super chat, Brent. Thank you so much. Unlike Kennedy and Last Jedi, I feel Feige incorporated female empowerment and respect for animals very differently into Endgame, creating some very emotional and some very funny scenes that actually fit the characters in them. I'm going to 100% disagree with you on that, Brent. There is the way they handled Rey in the Star. Now, whether you like or dislike the Star Wars movies is besides the point. That's not what we're talking about. But the way they handled Rey in that was perfectly good. You know, there is nothing in any of the Star Wars movies other than the fact that Rey just happens to have a vagina. There is nothing. Well, at least I think she does. I don't know what human beings in a galaxy far, far away have. I just assume it's a vagina. Anyway. Daisy Ridley has a vagina. And other than the fact that she possesses such a thing, there is nothing in the Star Wars movies at all about female empowerment. There is nothing in it. There's not a single line of dialogue, not a single thing done in the Star Wars movies that are about female empowerment. Not a bloody thing, other than the fact that, oh, this particular character, that character happens to be female, but it's never made an issue. That's the thing I was getting these arguments with people about. It's like, it's all about female empowerment, Star Wars. Tell me one line. Tell me one line of dialogue in any of the 3 Star Wars movies. Well, I mean, obviously you can't do that for The Rise of Skywalker yet, but any of the 2 Skywalker movies with Rey in them, name one line in the movie that was about, I am a woman, therefore I have a responsibility to carry on and stand up for women's power. Name one line in any of the first 2 Star Wars movies that have anything to do with that. You can't, because there's none. None. There are just a bunch of backwards thinking yoo-hoos out there who think just the fact that our hero is a woman is an issue. Why is that an issue? Why is it any more of an issue than if the lead character was a male? There's none. See, there's this show Supergirl, and I just dislike the show Supergirl because of the way they treat Superman. I think it's a fine show any other way, but just the way they treat Superman, I had to get out of the show. Anyway, that's a show that is filled, almost every episode, with lines like, I'm a girl, that means I can do it too. What, you have a problem with being taken down because I'm a girl? Like that show is filled with that. And that's fine, I don't care. That's fine. But that show is filled with that. The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi have none of that. It's just that a lot of people cannot handle the fact that, hey, our lead character in a Star Wars movie is a woman. And they're like, oh, I can't handle this. There's nothing in those movies about female empowerment. Not a single thing. Not one bloody single thing. Other than the fact that the lead character happens to be a girl. A point that is never brought up. Except for one time when Kylo Ren says, "What girl?" That's it. That's the only reference to her being a girl. I mean, this notion about anything about Star Wars being about female empowerment, blah, 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 point to me one thing in the movie that's about that. Oh, you can't. You can't. I will say to these people I debate with, you can't. Go ahead. I'll sit here and wait. You go ahead. You scrub through every second of those 2 movies and you point to me one scene that's about that. Nothing? That's right, nothing, because they're not there. Now, that doesn't mean you have to like those movies. I mean, you can hate the movies just because they didn't work for you as a movie. Nothing wrong with that. That's fine. But this whole thing about Star Wars being about female empowerment is this made-up myth by people who can't handle that there's a Star Wars movie led by a female character. Nobody had an issue with all the other Star Wars movies being led by male characters. None. And anyway, I would even say, no spoiler, I would even say, and for those of you who have seen Endgame, you'll know what I'm talking about. Those of you who haven't seen it, you'll have no idea what I'm talking about. There is very much a scene in Endgame that is very much female power kind of promotion thing. And I had no problem. I thought it was great. But that had a scene of that, and the Star Wars movies have not. So, and then, then you'll get the people who go, once they realize they can't win that argument with me, then they come back to me, well, Kathleen Kennedy made a shirt called The Force is Female. Actually, no, Kathleen Kennedy didn't make that shirt. The Force is Female is a Nike campaign ad, and she wore that shirt once in support of the Nike campaign ad, but people who are these bottom-dwelling feeder losers who can't handle the idea that it's a woman doing something instead of a man, they jumped all over that saying, Kathleen Kennedy's... It's a Nike ad campaign, and she wore a shirt of theirs to support it, and it got built and made into this incredible thing that it never was in the first place, all to try to justify a backward thinking, cousin humping kind of point of view that women should just stay in their place and be quiet, particularly in Star Wars movies. But hey, whatever. Is what it is. So I'm going to disagree with you on that, Brent, because I never found anything incorporated into the movie itself that had anything to do with female empowerment. If somebody can point to me a definitive scene, John, in this scene, such and such a character says, as a woman, she needs to stand up and take a place in the galaxy. If you can point to me one scene in the movie that does that, I'll go, okay, I stand corrected. I often have to say I stand corrected. I'm not above saying I stand corrected. I do it all the time. If somebody can send me something that shows that, I'll say I stand corrected. But nobody has yet. So I will continue to wait. I will continue to wait. All right. Key and Dev Reactions writes, saw Endgame Thursday night in IMAX. Talk about a football game crowd experience. Could not believe what I was seeing. Talk about a comic splash page. Yeah, particularly that last hour. I mean, it was, like I said, the last time I saw the movie, which was Thursday night, there were a couple of parts in that last hour that, not the whole audience, but there were parts around the audience of people just stood up and go, yeah, like literally stood up out of their chairs and cheered. It was a sporting-like excitement environment, and for somebody like me, I eat that up. Some people don't like that, and I respect that, but I kind of eat it up. I love that type of enthusiasm. All right. Chand Drasakara writes, hey, John, yesterday it was an emotional opinion, man. I didn't say everyone should follow my opinion. Okay, so for those of you who don't know what Chandrasekhar is saying, yesterday Chandrasekhar basically put in a question saying that I don't believe that people should criticize Endgame and it's a movie that shouldn't be given a rating. And I addressed that. So anyway, Chandrasekhar was writing back in and saying, you know why I said I said like that? For that you need to go to Rotten Tomatoes and see the review some have given. People say what they like and dislike in a movie. That is totally fine, even if it is different from mine. But a few of those reviewers who have given a rotten review said some things like that are totally baseless. Things like Infinity War and Endgame should not be called movies, worst blockbuster, bad visuals, do shopping and come back for last hour, etc. It makes me question, why did they bash this movie so much? They could have just left it at it was bad. They could have just left it at it was bad, like how some people do, but they did not. They kind of acted like trolls. Oh, no, brother, listen to me, my friend. No. They're saying things that are totally baseless. According to who? According to who? If they say it had bad visuals, if they say you can skip the first 2 hours, if they say whatever, you can't say it's totally baseless. That's just your opinion. Their opinion is different, and they should be allowed to say what their opinion was. If they thought the visual effects were bad, then they should say, we thought the visual effects were bad. You don't have to agree, but they don't have to agree with you in order to be allowed to express that opinion. And as far as saying, they could have just said it was bad and leave it at that, that's not what film critics are supposed to be or do. Are you saying, oh, if film critic, if you just liked a movie, just say it's good and leave it at that? No. A film critic's job is to get out there and say, okay, this worked with this movie, and here's why. And they go into all the things about why they thought that was good. And since you thought it was good, you have no problem with that. Then they think this other thing is good, and they go in and explain why they thought it was good, and you have no problem with that because you thought it was good. But you can't bring in a double standard and say, oh, you think something was bad? Don't go into it. Don't say anything else. Just say you thought it was bad and leave it at that. No, that's not what their job is. Their job is to explain, hey, I thought this thing in it was terrible, and here's why I thought it was terrible. I thought this was done bad, I thought this was done bad, and I thought this was done bad. That's not acting like a troll. That's just them reviewing the movie the way they experienced it and the way they saw it. You can't just say, well, I like this movie, therefore, if you're somebody who doesn't like it, just say you didn't like it and leave it at that. No, that's not fair, that's not right, and that's not the way it should be. If you got a problem with the movie, you should be able to say you have a problem, and you should be able to express what the problem is. And say, here's why I didn't like it. And you don't have to agree with it, that's fine. As a matter of fact, you can strongly disagree with it. And for me, some of my favorite film critics are the ones who will often say things I don't agree with, but they express their points of view and their opinions in such a way that it helps me sharpen my understanding about why I do like it. You know what I mean? That's what good film critics do. And that's why a lot of my favorite critics are critics that I don't even agree with most of the time. So, no, Chandrasekhara, this notion that they're acting like trolls, that they don't like it, they just go on and on about things that are baseless. By the way, baseless according to who? Just because you think it was baseless doesn't mean they think it's baseless, and doesn't think other people will think it's baseless. They hated something, they say it didn't work for them. And they should express it. Doesn't mean you have to agree, doesn't mean I have to agree. But if that all I want from these film critics and any film critic is their honest opinion and a talent to express why they felt that way. Not to change my mind, but to give me a better understanding about where they're coming from, and that helps me understand better of where I'm coming from. So, no, brother, you just got to accept that there's a movie you may love and other people may hate it, and they're going to have reasons for hating it, and they're going to give their reasons for hating it. And you just got to accept that. You just got to accept that, especially if it's just about subjective artistic decisions. If they didn't think the visual effects are good, they should be able to say the visual effects aren't good. If they thought there was massive problems, and I think there are some problems in the first 2 hours. I don't think massive ones, but there are problems in the first 2 hours. Well, if they think there are massive unwatchable problems, they should be allowed to say that and totally go into why. That's what it's all about. And it's just because you don't like what they're saying, and just because you don't like what their opinion is, and just because you don't agree with what their opinion is, shouldn't somehow invalidate the fact that they should express what it is. And just because somebody doesn't like something you do, that doesn't make them trolls. So you got to be able to accept that, my friend. You got to be able to accept that. Anyway, next up, James Wheeler writes, 8 more hours till me and my wife see Endgame tonight, and we are still spoiler-free. That is an accomplishment, James. And James, thank you so much for that super chat. That is an accomplishment, especially considering how many people have written in to say, we got, not that people didn't necessarily email them spoilers, but just randomly on what should be a safe site, and all of a sudden a thumbnail with a massive spoiler and a title, and all of a sudden they get spoiled. The fact, James, that you and your wife were able to avoid that is pretty damn impressive. Congrats. And even if you had been spoiled a little bit, I still think you would have had a good time, but I think going in completely spoiler-free is going to give you your best experience, and I hope you have a great time, my friend. You and your wife both. Marvel Guy 99 writes, where are we at here? Saw Endgame as my first IMAX movie. That's a nice first, my friend. That is a nice first. I was in tears. Dude, that must have been great. Seeing an IMAX movie for the first time for a movie like that on that type of a format. And by the way, the movie was shot on IMAX cameras, so it's going to have that extra oomph to it. That's a good first one. Tyler Van writes, what's your least favorite season of Game of Thrones? Honestly, probably season 1. Now, I keep saying this all the time. I'm not the biggest hardcore Game of Thrones fan. I really enjoy watching the show, and I love talking about it too, but I'm not the hardest of hardcore Game of Thrones fan. I haven't read the books. I have no intention of ever reading the books. I don't know all the details about the history of each of the houses like some hardcore fans do, a lot of that kind of stuff. So, as a casual, excited fan, probably my least favorite was season 1. I'll be honest with you, I wasn't even sure I was going to keep on with the show after season 1. I wasn't 100% sure I was going to watch season 2, but I'm glad that I did. So probably my least favorite is season 1. TNS93 writes, one way I would stop buying Blu-rays if Google Play allowed their TV app to download onto a separate hard drive like iTunes. That's not a Google's choice, by the way. That's a rights with the content providers. That's an issue with them. I like the idea. You know, even Netflix has some on some of their content. You have the right to download for offline viewing. But here's the thing: these companies don't need to convince you to stop buying Blu-rays. People are stopping buying Blu-rays. That's just the way it is. You know, Rob brought it up. Since 2014, Blu-ray disc sales have dropped by 50% in just 4.5 years. 50% physical media sales have dropped in half. And it's only continuing. It's only dropping faster and faster and faster. So the thing is, like places like Google or Amazon Prime, they don't need to talk you or convince you into stopping to buy Blu-rays. people just are stopping buying Blu-rays. They just are. And as that continues to fall, more people will follow like Samsung's way. Samsung, the number one Blu-ray manufacturer in the world, just announced they're going to stop making Blu-ray players. Pretty soon, other people are going to do that too. There's even a version of Xbox coming out without a disc drive in it. So it is the trend. It is the trend. And I don't think you should just stream. I don't think you should have digital. I think you should do whatever you like best. If you prefer buying the physical discs and having discs, awesome, do that. If you're more like me and you're more, hey, I like my digital streaming stuff, do that. I'm just saying at some point, that choice isn't going to be there anymore, whether we want it to or not. So it's just kind of the way of the trend of things. The McDougal Bugle writes, what are the three most crucial movies one should, okay, there you continued, watch before Endgame aside from Infinity War? Everybody will have a different opinion in that. Mine would probably be in the neighborhood of, if you're saying besides Infinity War, Guardians of the Galaxy has to be one of them because that fully explains Infinity Stones. Or gives you the first initial introduction to what Infinity Stones are. I think Civil War, because that gives you a lot of information about the group itself and the state we find themselves in. I think there's a number of things in Endgame you won't understand unless you watch Civil War. So Civil War would be one of them. And then maybe even Black Panther. Maybe even Black Panther would be the third. An argument could be made for the original Avengers movie, but yeah, three out of those four are definitely the ones that I would go with myself. Jared McBride writes, I just ordered the Marvel Legends series Captain America Shield. I already have the Iron Man helmet from Marvel's Legends series. That's awesome. You know, I'm not a huge collector, but I mean, I got kind of hooked into buying pops because pops are like $10 a shot. So you can just, every time I go out, I can buy 3 or 4 new ones. And I do have a lot of pops, but other than that, I'm not a real major collector, but I've been thinking about getting more into collecting stuff because I just think maybe I want some more. I see people like you, Jared, having all this cool stuff, and I get very envious. I get very jealous and very envious. It makes me think about doing that. I'm just a cheap son of a bitch. So I'm very nervous about spending lots of money, but that sounds awesome, man. Do me a favor. When you get it, can you send me a picture? Just email me a picture of it when you get it to john@thejohncampeashow.com. I'd get a big kick out of seeing it. Okay. Gerald Quintana writes, 8 more hours to go. Going rogue from social media has been so helpful in avoiding spoilers. I bet it has been, Gerald. I feel bad for my friend who has to survive until Wednesday. Oh, see, because every day, now that the movie's out, like, if we all thought it was hard to avoid spoilers before the movie opened, well, now you have tens of millions of people out there who have seen the movie that are now potential sources for spoilers. And it's just going to get worse. Every day that passes is going to be harder and harder. So you're right, Gerald. First of all, you were able to go spoiler-free. That's awesome. But I feel bad for your friend who's waiting till Wednesday. I feel that's going to be tough. If they can make it till Wednesday without it, that'll be a big thing. Snake Jerusalem writes, which one is better, Infinity Saga or the Dark Knight trilogy? Oh, that's impossible to say. They're two completely different things. One is a 22 film franchise. One is a 3 film franchise. One is a massive thing involving about 40 plus characters. One is focused on one main character. They're completely different things. Like, if you were even asking me, if you were going to be stranded on a desert island and you can only bring the Infinity Saga or the Dark Knight trilogy, which would you do? Well, probably the Infinity Saga because it's 22 movies. I'd rather take 22 movies with me to that island than 3. So it's a complete apples to spaceships kind of comparison. It's impossible to say. Can't say. Just simply can't say. It's an impossible comparison. It's like saying what's better, your Nike Air Jordans or your 1969 Corvette Stingray. They're completely different things that have 2 completely different price points, 2 completely different functions, it's really hard to say, so I can't really give an opinion on that. Guy Volt writes, I went into Endgame without seeing any trailers. Really? Yeah, I like trailers. I don't know that I'd even want to go into a thing, but there are some people out there, Gus or Guy, like you, who really love this idea of going into a movie completely clean. And that you were able to do that, that shows not only a lot of good social media agility to dodge all the spoilers, but a lot of self-discipline to keep yourself from clicking on those trailers or seeing. Now, you must have inadvertently come across a TV spot or two, because that you have no choice. You're watching TV and all of a sudden a trailer start or a TV spot starts to play. You're going to at least see a couple of seconds of it. So I'm sure you had a little bit of that. But that's a lot of good self-discipline right there, Guy Volt. All right. Next up. Is, as we just have a little bit of a jump there. Next up is Eric Becker, who writes, money. That's pretty much, that's, you just summed up Avengers Endgame right now for Disney in one word, Eric. Money. Jared McBride writes, prayers go out to Doshi. You will fight this, whatever it takes. Of course, one of our regular viewers here, Doshi, is battling leukemia, and it's always cool to see our community here jump in and support them as well. Thanks for that, Jared. James Wheeler writes, I said earlier, tonight I'm going at 7 with my wife, but then tomorrow I'm going again at 7:30 a.m. Go to bed when you get, because you're not getting home till like 11 o'clock tonight. So enjoy your screening tomorrow morning, my friend. Have a good time. David Linian writes, are you going to be at the Burbank 16 today? Probably not. Probably not. I was at the Burbank 16 yesterday, but today I'm wrapping up the open mic today. They're going to wrap that up today. And then Ann and I are driving out of town. We're going to Corona and Riverside, California today to hang out with family. And but then I'll be back tomorrow for our Avengers Endgame spoiler discussion. It was great. Actually, it's funny. I went to see Avengers Endgame Thursday night at not the AMC Burbank 16, but one block away from the AMC Burbank 16 is another AMC theater called the AMC 6. And me and Ann and a bunch of friends went to go see it at the AMC 6, and we had to walk back right in front of AMC Burbank 16, and it was like 1 o'clock in the morning. And sure enough, there was a couple of people hanging out front getting ready to go see Endgame and yell, John Campea! And they came over and we got to hang out and talk to them for a second. And they spoke Tagalog. So that was pretty cool. But no, I will not be at the AMC Burbank 16 today. Won't be there today. But that's a great place to go and see Endgame, though, David. Have a good time. John Demoto writes, finally saw Endgame last night. Awesome movie-going experience. Probably the most emotionally exhausting movie for me since Return of the King. I agree. Now, I prefer Return of the King, but it is an emotionally exhausting movie. From the thrills and excitements and cry time and all that kind of stuff. It's an emotionally exhausting movie. That's an excellent way to put it. I still give the nod to Return of the King. That's one of the greatest motion pictures of all time. So I still give the nod to Return of the King, but this is an emotionally exhausting movie, John. That's the perfect way to put it. The Mooning Pig, I love that name, writes, if Endgame was a spicy meatball, how spicy would it be? That's a tough question, man. I hate spicy food, so that's a bad thing for me. You got me. I don't even know how to answer that. I don't know how to answer it. Pretty hot. I'll just say that. It's pretty hot. Dirk Diggler writes, if I were to tell you I own 95% of MCU movies and some merchandise, attending the first night of Avengers Endgame yet, I also have enjoyed DC a little longer. Would that make me a Marvel fan? I love Marvel. What's wrong with being a Marvel fan? See, here's the thing. And I think finally everybody's starting to get this. To say you are a Marvel fan does not suggest you are not also a DC fan. Like when people ask me straight up, John, are you a Marvel fan? I say, I'm a comic book movie fan. I am a big fan of the Marvel stuff, but I'm also a fan of DC. You know, I love Shazam. I liked Batman versus Superman. I liked Justice League. Like, I enjoy these movies. I liked Aquaman. You know? I like Ant-Man and Doctor Strange and Iron Man and Guardians of the Galaxy and Black Panther and Infinity War and Civil War. I mean, so when somebody asks me, Dirk, am I a Marvel fan? And I do. I have a lot of people ask, am I a Marvel fan? Well, first of all, I am a comic book movie fan. I am first a comic book movie fan. I do not have or pledge any loyalty to any corporate label, whether it's Warner Brothers and DC or whether it's Disney with Marvel. I pledge no allegiance to any corporate label. But I am a fan of comic book movies first and foremost. And so, yes, I am a DC fan. And yes, I am a Marvel fan. So if you were to tell me you own 95%, does that make you a Marvel fan? Sure, but it doesn't mean you don't like DC or don't like it. You're not a DC fan at the same time. It's not an either or. It's a both and. It's a both and. Someone McShave writes, Avatar will be the shortest. Try this again. Avatar will be the shortest of the top 3 box office at under 2 hours and 40 minutes. Yeah, because Titanic is super long. Endgame is over 3 hours. So you're right. Avatar will be the shortest of the top 3 of the box office. Now, that's assuming that Avengers Endgame gets into the top 3. But that's pretty much a foregone conclusion at that point. So I think we're safe to say that. It's an interesting little piece of trivia there, Stubble. I like that. DAL writes, Hey, John. Hey, DAL. I want to say thank you for doing this show. It is my pleasure and my joy, DAL. I insist upon that. It helped me a lot in the past year after my father passed away. Your show inspired me to keep making music, even though my motivation was at an all-time low. Thank you. Dude, thank you so much for sharing that. I talk about this all the time. We keep seeing great examples of this. The film fan community and the movies are not just escapes. People always say the movies is just an escape. It's not. Movies matter. They give us visions of the world as they are, as the way we hope it could be, as it was. It lets us dream. It lets us have visions for ourselves, that they inspire us. They heighten our experiences and give us emotional impact. And whenever I walk out of a movie, I've always said this before, and this transcends also to the movie fan community, because I find the same experience when I get to engage with the movie or with the movie fan community, is that we come out a little bit refreshed, a little bit charged, and it doesn't change the problems we face in the real world, but what it does is it changes our perception of the problems we have in our real world, within our own personal world. I've found in my life that I might be facing a challenge or a struggle in my life that's just got me down, whatever, and then I spend a couple hours watching a great movie, and I come out with my mind a little bit refreshed, and I'm just able to look at the problems I might be facing in my life from a little bit different of a perspective now. And maybe the mountain doesn't seem that so high to climb. And I've had that same experience going into long conversations with friends just about movies, that I come out of those conversations renewed, refreshed, my imagination charged, and my real world problems are still there in front of me, and they didn't change, but maybe my perception of them does. And I think the film fan community and movies does that, and that's why I love the movies and the movie fan community so much, is because it does that for us. And I love the fact, DAL, that this part of the film fan community, and we're only one part of it, but that this part of the film fan community has been there for you to help inspire you and give you motivation, whatever, because that's the movies and that's the movie fan community at its best. So I am really honored, man, that you would share that. Thank you so much for sharing that, and good on you, and keep motoring, and condolences about your father passing away last year, and just congrats on moving forward, and thank you for sharing that, man. I'm honored that you did. Thank you. Let's keep going here. Guys, just going to let you know, in a minute or two here, we're going to take a 5-minute break so I can, because we've been going for almost an hour and a half. We're getting close to an hour and a half here. I need to refill my drink. I need to use the bathroom. I got a little bit of Endgame stuff going on here. And we're going to take a 5-minute break. You'll just need to give my voice just a little bit of a rest for a few minutes. But we're going to take a few more questions, and I'm going to take that break. All right. Jetfire97 writes, I love watching your streams. Thank you, Jetfire. I will be watching Endgame next Sunday for the very first time. It'll be a miracle if I last that long without any spoilers. Dude, I'm telling you what. Believe me, what I want to say to you is, don't worry about it. You got this. It's going to be tough. I'm going to be honest with you, man. Making it, because now that everybody in the world is going to have seen it, it's going to be very, very tough avoiding the spoilers. It's going to be really tough. Everybody's seen it now. It's been open for a few days. It's going to be tough. So I will keep my virtual fingers crossed for you, Jetfire. Good luck. I hope you're able to make it. But dude, by all means, if you can see it a little sooner, try to see it sooner if you can. Dacky Wood just sends in a super chat. Thank you, Dacky. Tongverse Viking, I like that name, writes, damn, I loved Endgame and loved Thor in it. I'm not going to go into any details or specifics, because I'm going to save all that for the spoiler discussion for tomorrow, but I'm glad you had a good time, Tongueverse. Guy Volt writes, Endgame made more money than Captain Marvel's entire opening weekend in only one day. Well, it made more money than a lot of movies make in their entire theatrical run in one day. With 156 million on Friday alone. What in the world? 300 million easily? Yeah, at this point, Guy Volt, 300 million easily. The question is no longer... The question now is no longer, which has shocked me, shocked Disney, shocked everybody. Because while I thought it was possible, I mean, I've been saying for weeks, it's definitely possible it could get 300 million. I thought it was unlikely. But the last minute surge and rush has pushed this thing to levels that I wasn't expecting, that even Robert wasn't expecting, that Disney wasn't expecting. It's crazy. It is no longer a question about whether it'll get to 300 million. That seems to now be it's a foregone conclusion now that it'll cross 300 million. The question now is, how much over 300 million will it be? And that's insane. It's insane. We are indeed, Guy, witnessing cinematic history right now. Jalen Robinson writes, something just entered the atmosphere. Yep, it did. Nico writes, I was playing Fortnite the other day and some basement kid insulted me. I mean, what the F? I'm not going to talk about that. Hector Jeter writes, I'm literally tempted to buy the Endgame hot toys. Of course. I mean, we're all going to be tempted by that. I mean, they look fantastic. I can't wait. I mean, I may finally break down and buy myself one. Like, you guys know, I've been talking about getting the Thanos one for over a year. And it's still not on my shelf because I'm a cheap son of a bitch. It's not on my shelf. But man, it's going to be hard not to get some of these Endgame ones, man. S1DDO writes, just puts in a super chat. Thanks, S1. Django19 writes, not a huge NHL fan, but when I went to Pittsburgh, I had to see the Penguins. Got to see Crosby score the hat trick versus the Tampa Bay Lightning's awesome experience. Dude, other than the Toronto Maple Leafs, my team for the last 20 years, other than the Maple Leafs, which I bleed blue and white. But my team for the last 20 years has been the Pittsburgh Penguins because my all-time favorite hockey player is Mario Lemieux. And Sidney Crosby, by the way, is from where I was born. He and I were born in the same town. We were both born in Halifax, Nova Scotia. And that's so I have loved Sidney Crosby his whole career. And of course, when he scored that gold medal winning goal at the Olympics. And yeah, that was pretty impressive when he scored that hat trick. Dude, I'm telling you what, I've been lucky enough to go to live NHL hockey games with people a couple of times that have never watched hockey. And they're always like, this was incredible. I'm telling you what, guys, and I know it's not big outside of Canada, but go to a live NHL game. And there is no other professional sport is nearly as exciting live as professional hockey. That's up for opinion, of course, but there is no sport as exciting to watch live than professional hockey, than NHL hockey. It is especially playoff hockey. I'm glad you had that experience, Django. All right. 3 more, and then I'm going to take a short break, guys. Orlando Orego writes, Endgame was awesome. I wish you were there, John, to say in my ear, cry time for the sad moments. That would have been great. I would love that. I think I did say it out loud once with Anne when we were at the premiere. I believe there was one scene. I will obviously right now I won't say what it was, Orlando. You'll probably know. But I leaned over to Anne going, cry time, because her eyes are starting to water up and all. Cry time. It would be fun to do that in another screening. Cry time. I'm sure people all across America who watch the John Campea Show are in these theaters when something happens that's bringing that on. Just hear people across theaters yell, cry time. If you hear somebody yell that in the theater, you'll know exactly where they got it from. But thanks for sharing that, Orlando. I wish I was there too. Hector Jeter writes, loved Endgame and still processing this depression. Seeing it the 3rd time today and already can't wait to see it on Monday with friends and family. See, that's the best thing, Hector. We talk about that a lot on this show and on all my different shows. The best thing about the movies is when they're shared experiences, right? And I love that I've seen this movie with my wife 3 times, or I'm going to see it for a 3rd time with my wife tonight. I love that we have that experience. I love that me and Rob got to go there and watch the movie together. I took Rob for his first screening of it. I love that we got to have that shared experience. And I'm looking forward to seeing it with other friends. You know, it's the best thing about it. And when you get a movie like Endgame that is so experiential on so many different levels, it only adds to that. So that's awesome. You're going to get to go do that. All right. Eric Mercado writes, hello, John. I'm very grateful for your show. Well, I'm grateful that you're here watching, Eric. Thanks for that, man. And thanks for that really big super chat. I appreciate it. Thank you for supporting the channel, man. I've been following you since AMC, and I decided to finally support. So my wife and I are watching Endgame tomorrow. Should I buy my collectible popcorn bucket and cup today? My one big regret. I don't know what I was thinking. Ann and I walked into the theater on Thursday night for our third viewing of the movie. And we noticed they have these metal collectible Avengers Endgame popcorn buckets. Yay! We noticed that we were in the back of the concession line. And then by the time I got to the front of concession line, I totally forgot about it, got a regular bag of popcorn, and it was when we were leaving, I went, oh crap, I meant to get that. I just hope they still have them. I would say get it if you want it like I want it, get it while you can, because who knows what their supply is like. Who knows what their supply is like? So I would say get it, dude. Get it if you get that chance, because I missed out. And maybe now I'll never get one. I might not be able to get a chance to get one, and I want it. I got a mind like a 5-year-old child. Yeah, idea in 1 year. Oh, there goes out the other. I was literally in line when I saw it, and by the time I got to the front of the line, I was like, ooh, shiny, looking at other things, and I had totally forgotten about it. So I was walking home and leaving after. I hate that I forgot about that. So I'm glad you brought it up, Eric. I'm glad you brought it up. Take advantage while you can take advantage. Get that damn thing, man. Get it. Don't be like me and forget about it. Okay. Last one I'm going to take right now, and then we're going to take a short 5-minute break, guys. Diego Martinez writes, hey, John, I really, really hate to be the odd one out, but I didn't like Endgame. Though I love the enthusiasm the people are showing, going to watch it again tonight, and I really hope I drastically change my opinion. You know what, Diego? Honestly, here's the thing, man. Not every movie is for everybody. We all, see, this is the beautiful thing about the subjectivity of film. We go into movies, and the movie hits us, it washes over us with an experience. And either the experience works for us or it doesn't. Guess what? Not everybody likes Godfather. It's the greatest movie ever made. Not everybody likes Godfather. Not everybody likes Star Wars. Not everybody likes Lord of the Rings. Not everybody liked Endgame. Not everybody liked Infinity War. And certainly, so you to go in there, if it didn't work for you, it didn't work for you. Oh, well. There'll probably be a new movie coming out in the next couple of weeks that you will like. No apologies necessary. And you know, look, I've got parts of Endgame that don't work for me. Like for me, overall, the movie's really fun. And it's really great overall. That doesn't mean there weren't moments of it and parts of it that I think are problematic. And we'll talk about those parts on the spoiler discussion tomorrow. We'll get into that tomorrow for sure. But yeah, I got issues. And I had somebody else actually write in on the show the other day saying, you know what? I watched Endgame, didn't work for me. I thought it was this, this, and this. I'm like, hey, man, no problem. That's what part of being a film fan is. There are movies you like. There are movies that you don't. Everybody, Diego, everybody has super popular movies that they don't like. Everybody does. Everybody. I'm not a big fan of the original Blade Runner. Sorry. I know it's the cool I know everybody loves it, and I totally acknowledge it's a classic, all that kind of stuff. Does not work for me. I know everybody loves the original Halloween. I don't think it's all that good. Everybody, whether they admit it or not, has a super popular movie that doesn't quite work for them. We all do. So there are going to be people that don't like Endgame. Oh, well, no big deal. You not liking it doesn't take away my enjoyment of it. And doesn't mean you're not going to love another movie that you see. That's all that matters, man. So no apologies needed. Doesn't matter. And you don't have to hope your opinion changes. If it doesn't change, it doesn't change. No big deal. That's the beautiful thing about the movies, man. It's all subjective, and we all have these different experiences. And that just adds to the enjoyment of being a film fan for me. So no apologies necessary, Diego. You're totally good. All right, guys. So for now, I'm going to take here a quick 5-minute break. If anybody comes along and starts joining the stream and saying, hey, where the hell is John? Just let them know he's just on a short break. We'll be back in 5 minutes, guys. So I will see you then. I will be right back. And we are back. Thank you, everybody, for indulging me as I took a little bit of a break there to refill my drink and rest up my voice for just a minute. And now let's start racing towards the finish line here. S1DDO just sends a super chat. Thank you, S1. Archangel 0891 writes, did you load your blaster and scream that at that bit, JC? Did you load your blaster and scream at that bit, JC? I'll be honest, Archangel, I'm not quite sure what it is we're talking about. I'm not even 100%. I assume you're talking about Endgame, but I'm not really sure. Look, there are a lot of moments that I gasped out loud. There are a lot of moments in the movie that I just completely gasped out loud. So I'm not sure I know which, because this is the funny thing about Endgame. There are a couple of legitimate that moments. You know what I mean? That's why I keep saying that if you got a little bit spoiled for you, don't worry. There's still a lot of surprises. But yeah, there are a couple of that moment. Now, somebody's saying there's no audio. Somebody's saying there's no audio, but I think there's audio. Is there not audio? Hold a second here. Oh, no, we got audio. We got audio. Audio's fine there. Okay. No, let's just keep going here. Let's see. Brett WB writes, hey, John, love what you do. Thank you so much, Brett. Can't lie, I didn't like Endgame. Some moments were awesome, but some really convenient and lazy writing. I'm going to go into my specifics tomorrow. But overall, I quite had a very good time with it. But there are things that you just said there, Brett, that I will agree with. I think there are some moments of very convenient and some lazy writing. Moments. And I'll go into those in the spoiler review tomorrow. Overall, though, I had a great time. But again, Brett, hey, if it overall didn't work for you, then overall didn't work for you. No big deal. We're always going to come across movies that we love and some movies that don't work for us as well. This was one that didn't work for you. There's no sweat. There's no sweat there whatsoever. Okay. Donnie Yasu writes, shout out to the ticket taker at my theater last night who welcomed everyone with, you're in the end game now. That's awesome. I love that. I love it when, movie theater employees just take it upon themselves to up the experience a little bit. I think that's great. That's awesome. Good for you for giving them a shout out, Donnie. Matthew Heap writes, if you could choose a movie to have been on the set of for any reason, interest, education, comedy value, which springs to mind? Well, I mean, obviously the first Star Wars movie. I mean, I was a child, but I mean, the first Star Wars movie. Because to know that I'm there on what is going to be probably the most important, most influential, pop culturally relevant movie ever made, to be there on the set of that would be amazing. So yeah, man. I think for me, it would have been the original Star Wars movie. Interesting question, Matthew. Thanks for asking that. Okay. Thomas Mises writes, my mother thought that something happened to me when she caught me crying after I came home from watching Endgame. This movie is excellent, my respect. It's so much cry time, Thomas. So much cry time and gasp time and cheer time. I mean, look, whether you like the movie or not, and there have already been some people that have written in today that they didn't like the movie. No problem. But I think even people that don't like the movie would be the first ones to tell you, oh, there's some big experiences in this film. There's definitely a lot of big experiences in this film. That doesn't mean the movie works overall for everybody. Clearly it doesn't. But it certainly does have those big experiences. And yeah, I'm with you on that, Thomas. That's funny. They'll come home and your mom think there's something wrong with you. I like that. Thanks for sharing that, man. All right. Liam Koch writes, hey, John, have you seen the Gotham Series final? If so, what do you think? I'm going to be honest with you, Liam. I haven't seen a single episode of the final season. Like, for me, Gotham has always been a hit and miss show. Some episodes really good. Some really bothered me. To me, and many of you guys have heard me say this before, to me, Gotham worked when it was about Jim Gordon and the crime in the city. When Gotham was about Jim Gordon and the crime in the city, that's when this show really hummed. And they would do episodes of that all throughout the series. When the show was about being a Batman light series, like, look, everybody, this little kid, he becomes Batman. Look at how he's wearing a cape. Ooh, look how he's putting on the mask. He becomes Batman. The show was stupid, in my opinion. And I got to last season's season finale, and I just went, I give up. I waved the white flag on it. At its best, Gotham was great, but at its worst, it was a pain to watch. And so I just never got into watching it for this season. I've not seen a single episode. Now, I will probably get on it at some point because all my shows are coming to their season finales now. So when that happens, I'll probably jump on the final season of Gotham and watch it. But yeah, I felt no motivation to watch it this season. So I haven't seen this season of the series finale yet, but probably in the next month or two, I'll get around to watching that. Jason Espinoza writes, thoughts on spoilers without context memes. I'm not really sure what it is you're asking, Jason, so I can't really say. If you're talking about memes that have spoilers in the movie, well, you shouldn't have those out because somebody's going to come across and might spoil something. So, but I don't know what it is specifically you're asking, so I can't really address it intelligently. Sorry about that, Jason. S1DDO writes, hey, John, looking forward to Endgame. Just backed it? I don't know what just backed it means. You mean I'm not quite sure what it means, but I'm excited that you're going to get a chance to watch it, S1, and I hope you have a great time, sir. All right, King Louie writes, hey, John, new listener, but love the daily news already. Well, thank you so much, King Louie, and welcome to our little community here. What is your thoughts on the direction of the MCU post-Endgame? Are you more excited or hesitant that it may lose luster? Ooh, that's a good question. See, whenever you're heading into something, or more specifically, coming out of something, that is such a big crescendo, because really Endgame is the crescendo of the first 22 films. I don't think it's the best movie out of the 22, but it is definitely the crescendo. And they've been building up to it, and now here it is. Unlike any of the other MCU movies, it does leave you in a place of wondering, okay, what comes next? Where do they go from here? Now, the obvious answer is they go to Spider-Man Far From Home. So the immediate question, King Louie, becomes, what is enthusiasm amongst the movie-going audience going to be towards Spider-Man Far From Home? I've already heard from some people, and I think a lot of them will change their mind, but I've already heard from some people going, oh, Endgame, I can't go see Far From Home. I need more time. I'm not going to go see Far From Home just because I need more time to process from this exhausting experience of Endgame. Now, I'm sure they'll change their mind after a few weeks because, Spider-Man Far From Home is still a couple of months away. But the tricky thing here, Louis, is it's really difficult to go into any specifics about, okay, here's what I see the MCU doing now. Because for me to answer that would require me to reveal things that happened in Endgame that we cannot do yet, right? We will talk spoilers tomorrow on the spoiler review and the spoiler discussion. Does it make it lose luster? I'll say this. Sometimes you come out of a movie feeling pretty sure about where things are going. I came out of Endgame more curious about where the MCU is going than anything else. I came out more curious. Now, the one thing I'll say about Endgame, because people have asked me this, is like, did you come out, do you really feel like now you know where the MCU is going? No. Because what they did with Endgame was they didn't treat Endgame as a build-up to something. They didn't use any of Endgame to build up to something else. They really just focused on this movie. This movie did not worry about what comes next. This movie was focused entirely on this movie. There are a few things that happened in the last couple of minutes that maybe set something up in the future. Who knows? Maybe, maybe not. But for the big bulk of this movie, they did not use this film to build up to other things. They kept all the focus on Endgame. So I come out of Endgame really more curious about what the future holds for the MCU than anything else. But then again, we'll probably get more into that in a little bit more detail on tomorrow's show, Louis. Good question. Thanks for bringing it up. All right. Randall Guzik writes, I saw Endgame and really enjoyed it. 8.5 out of 10. Some gripes. My main gripe was the Thor running gag. To me, the best parts were the emotional stories. Steve, Tony, Black Widow, and Hawkeye, plus that battle. Wow. Oh, and there are several battles and several big wow things in it. And they do a really good, I think a lot of the characters, particularly the OG Avengers, get a lot of really good character moments in this film. And you know what it was to me? It was very much more reminiscent to me of the first Joss Whedon Avengers movie, where the first Joss Whedon Avengers movie, there was no one character that was the lead character. It was equal balance of all of them. And ever since, every movie, even the Avengers movies themselves, seem to have some person in the central role. This one, more than anything else, felt more balanced than any of the other Avengers films since the original Joss Whedon one. And that was really curious to see. So I can totally see, you're right, great character moments for Tony, Steve, Black Widow, Hawk, all the OG Eve, Bruce had great moments. They all had great moments, and it was really, really good to see. All right. Preppy Guy 1125 writes, saw Endgame first night and had to pee so bad through it, but there was no way I was getting up. LOL, hashtag whatever it takes. Then saw it Friday and enjoyed it way more. Yeah, I remember I very disciplined, planned out and strategized my liquid consumption that entire first day that me and Ann went to the Endgame premiere. I was strategic about it. I planned out exactly to the last minute how much liquid I was consuming that day and when I consumed it. And I was able to get through Endgame no problem without a bathroom break. By the time my second viewing of Endgame ended, I really needed to go to the bathroom. My third viewing of Endgame, which was Thursday night, I went to the bathroom twice because I've already seen it twice and I knew where I could go to the bathroom. And it made me enjoy it a lot more. So I was able to go to the bathroom twice, but good on you getting through it that one time. The McDougal Bugle writes, linear algebra and modern physics should be prerequisites for Endgame. Well, theoretical at any rate. Can't go into the details because Mike gives some spoilers away, but for those of you who've seen the movie, you know exactly what the McDougal is talking about, and you're onto something there. At least for conversational sakes, right? Gavin Downward writes, can you describe how you thought about Thor? Not a fan at all. He's my favorite character, and it just took me out of it. That being said, love the movie. No, I cannot describe it because that would be getting into spoilers. I can't describe it. Believe me, Gavin, I know where you're coming from. I do. I know where you're coming from. There are things for me that did not work, particularly about Thor, but who I adore as a character. But obviously, I can't describe how I thought about it or why, because I can't bring up any examples because that would be spoilery. Definitely we'll get into that on tomorrow's episode, which is, of course, our big open spoiler discussion about Endgame. Starts at 12 p.m. tomorrow. Make sure you guys come and join us. But all I can say for now, Gavin, is I can see where you're coming from. Django writes, does AMC sell Endgame tins and cups for popcorn? My Regal does, and I have been collecting them for all the MCU movies. I got a Cap one before that sold out. All I can tell you for sure, Django, is that the AMC theater I was at on Thursday did have tin popcorn buckets. They probably had collector cups too, but I wasn't looking for them. I wasn't looking for the tin popcorn ones either. I just saw somebody walking away with one. I'm like, they have those. I got to buy one. And then I totally forgot about it. But all I can say that I know for sure is that the AMC I was at did have them. So I'm going to assume other AMCs will have them as well. And I really want one. Trondum writes, who saw Endgame this weekend? Gary Oldman. Everyone. That's probably a great reference that's going right over my head, but probably a lot of you guys are laughing at what that means. Strong Nerd writes, thank you for being awesome and not spoiling Avengers Endgame. Well, thank you, Strong Nerd, and thanks for the kind words, man. Yeah, I was not going to spoil this movie. No way was I going to spoil this movie. Tomorrow, all spoilers. Today, none from me. All right, Jaron Morris writes, was at a gaming convention a month ago and got to see 20 minutes of new footage of Last of Us 2. Nice. And you want to talk about ball your eyes out time. Oh my God, hashtag broken. Listen, I really liked, particularly, you know what's really good? The cutscene movie of Last of Us on YouTube. And there's about I think it's the 12-hour version I watched. Not obviously in one sitting, but there's like a 12-hour version of the Last of Us cutscene movie where everything that was storytelling, even in gameplay, they made sure they included parts of gameplay that told story. And obviously they did because it ended up being 12 minutes long. I really enjoyed it a lot. I'm very much looking forward to playing Last of Us 2. And hearing that, Jaron, just makes me more excited. I mean, what game convention was that? But anyway, was that the one in Seattle? Anyway, that sounds great. I'm very anxious to get my hands on this game whenever it's available. That's cool that you saw 20 minutes. I wonder if it leaked online. I'm going to have to go look for that because now you got me really curious, Jaron. All right. Willen Neegum writes, hey, John, I've been a big fan since your AMC days. Thank you so much, William. What's your favorite Mel Brooks movie? Mine is Blazing Saddles. It is hard not to say Blazing Saddles. Blazing Saddles, I've talked a lot about that movie actually the last couple of months. It's hard. I mean, so many risque things are done in that movie. It's amazing. But honestly, for me, you guys could probably guess, but it's Spaceballs. I adore Spaceballs so much. But man, there's not many Mel Brooks movies that are not just a pure joy to sit down and watch. Blazing Saddles, certainly. His Frankenstein one, the Star Wars one, Spaceballs. But I'm going to say Spaceballs. You know, I can't get enough of that. You can't get Spaceballs 2, The Search for More Money. That's the one for me. But Blazing Saddles is all time. Guys, if you have not seen it yet, please follow William's advice. Watch Blazing Saddles when you get a chance because it's hilarious. Okay, next up comes from Corey Harper, who writes, the Supernatural finale was crazy in my opinion, goosebumps. Again, everybody's saying that, and that's great. I can't remember the last time I disliked a Supernatural episode as much as I disliked that episode. The fact that they just went totally contrary to everything they've ever done in the show about Chuck, all because they suddenly realized they're going into their last season and we need the biggest adversary they've ever had. I don't know. It felt very unnatural. It felt very retcon-y. Did not work for me. It's the first time I've ever watched a Supernatural episode that I just flat out really disliked it. And, here's hoping that they're heading in a good direction for their final season. Randall Guzik writes, John, you can find the collectible cups and tins on eBay. Very nice. That's how I've been getting my movie theater cups and popcorn tins. That's awesome. Thanks for sharing it because I want to get it. Now, I'm going to go back to an AMC theater tonight. Hopefully they'll have them and I'll just buy it right there and get some delicious popcorn in it. But if not, I may have to go to eBay. Thank you for letting me know that, Randall. I didn't realize that. Ant Banks 1984 writes, I was listening to African Bambaataa and the Soul Sonic Force. Anyway, Planet Rock and thought about you, John. Do you still have your Adidas and cardboard? I do not. And now what he's referring to is back in the day, I used to be a breakdancer. It is hard to imagine. I understand. But it's true. I even, made money at it. I made money breakdancing. I know it's virtually impossible. I used to go to local things. I won myself in a breakdancing competition. I won myself a big full-bodied awesome dark blue with the white stripes Adidas windbreaker, complete outfit with the pants and everything. We used to go around with, the cardboard box that we could fold out, spray a little wax on it, do everything. Yeah, that used to be the day. Ah, yes, those were the days, man. Those were the days. Thanks for sharing that, Ant Banks. King of the Hills 34 writes, is Weekly Hero coming back or is it canceled? It is coming back. Actually, starting this Monday, we're going to have a little bit of a change that I'm excited about. Nothing major, but just a little bit of a change that I'm very excited about. And it is going to set up the path for us bringing back. It's just been very, very tough. Let's put it this way. Rob looked at me the other day and said, dude, how are you even alive? But with how many hours I work every day. So it's been very tough to do it. But yes, it is coming back. And one of the little changes we're making this week is going to facilitate that. So before summer, I'll say this, before Comic-Con, it will be back. Yeah, before Comic-Con, maybe even much sooner than that. Heroes will be back. Neil Before Zimmer writes, gotta disagree about Supernatural finale, John. Chuck wasn't retcon. They just made him a dick once he lost control of his own story. Again, no, it was a complete retcon because they always played him out he had great empathy before. He was great and all that kind of stuff. They totally changed his character. Completely changed. I respect that you disagree. That's awesome. And I think most people would disagree with me, by the way, Neil Before Zod. But as the biggest Supernatural fan that I know, all I know is that this episode was the first episode that I walked away really disliking. There have been better and less good episodes along the way, but I have never walked away from a Supernatural episode and gone, that sucked. And that's how I felt. I walked away going, That sucked. But hey, whatever. We'll see how the series finale actually does it. All right, and Matt Linton just sends in a last-second super chat just as you supportive. And guys, that will do it for us for this installment of Open Mic. Guys, don't forget, tomorrow is the day. Tomorrow is the absolute day. Not that, but tomorrow is the day when we do our Avengers Endgame open spoiler discussion. It starts at 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time tomorrow. Plan accordingly. I'll be here. Rob will be here. Ann will probably stick her nose in for a bit here and there too. I'm excited to finally talk openly about this movie, Endgame. Finally excited. So excited to be able to talk just openly about it. Guys, make sure if you've seen the movie, or if you don't care about spoilers, make sure you come again tomorrow. Guys, that will do it for me for now. Thank you so much for being here. My name is John Campea, guys, and we're in the end game now. Bye-bye.